Good afternoon. It's 5 o'clock. I would like to call to order the Public Works and Property Vacation Committee meeting. Clerk Serrato, would you take the roll, please?
I'm going to read a few announcements prior to committee starting. Good afternoon, members of the public. To maintain good audio quality for council members and yourselves, we will be muting everyone not speaking by default. If you would like to speak during a public portion of the meeting, please submit your request in the chat. Directions to do so will be listed. We ask that you provide your full name and residential address, as those are required for all speakers at in-person council meetings. Those wishing to speak must activate their camera displaying the speaker to be recognized by the chair. Thank you. Committee Member Warner. Committee Member Dr. Davis.
Present.
Citizen Member Abel Gonzalez.
Present.
Committee Vice Chair Niskoski.
Present.
Committee Chair Gunn Rogers.
Present.
All present.
So today before us is Bill number 2026, and it's about allocation regarding the western half of unimproved north-south right-of-way north of Calvert and immediately east of 2801 West Calvert. Do we have a presenter? You got to state your name for the record, please. And is the address too? Okay.
My name's Christopher Allen Tomkowitz. I live at 2801 West Calvert. And I'd like to purchase that vacation or whatever you guys call it, that piece of property.
So I barely did hear what he said, Chris. Are you with him, Chris? Can you help him?
Oh, here. Can you hear me now?
Yes, now I can.
I'm
Okay.
sorry. Do I got to state my name and all that all
Mhm.
over?
Go ahead.
My name's Christopher Tomkowitz. I live at 2801 West Calvert. I would like to get that small piece of property next to me. Just so I can have a bigger yard that my grandson can run around in. And one day fence it off.
Hmm. Well, I guess I'll open the public hearing.
Go ahead.
Well, no, I'll do the committee first. The committee. I'll open the committee and the council. Any questions?
I don't.
Are you saying you did have a
I
question?
said, no, I don't.
Okay, okay. Okay, then I'll go to anybody down there? Okay, we'll open the public. Anyone speaking in favor or against?
At this time, I do not see any members of the public in person or online wishing to speak in favor.
Okay, then I'll close the public hearing and back to the council and the committee.
I think I'll just, a couple comments just to kind of clarify things here for the record. So this, looks like was an alley and maybe owned by the railway at one point in time, the property around it, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, and so you're just wanting the you'd get half of that property there that was the alley, the other would go to the other attached,
Correct.
correct? And it comes, looks like everybody sent it forward with a favorable recommendation. So I will make a motion to send this on to 7 PM with a favorable
We haven't
recommendation.
held a public hearing yet.
She did public hearing.
No, she said she'll come back here first to the council, then we do a public hearing.
No, I did all of that. We did public hearing, came back to the council, we did the public
Mhm.
hearing, yeah.
We had public hearing, yes.
Nobody was asked to be, but don't worry about it.
I'll second the motion.
Public hearing.
Toronto, would you please call the roll?
Committee Member Warner.
Aye.
Committee Member Dr. Davis.
Aye.
Citizen Member Abel Gonzalez.
Aye.
Committee Vice Chair Niskoski.
Aye.
Committee Chair Gooden Rogers.
Aye. Okay,
All
then,
ayes.
at this time, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next meeting will be at 5:15 zoning and annexation.
It is 5:15. We would like to bring the zoning and annexation committee of the South Bend Common Council to order. I'm Dr. Davis. I'd like for our clerk to bring to share the roll.
Committee Member White,
Present.
Committee Member Warner,
Present.
Citizen Member Stacy Odom,
Present.
Committee Vice Chair Thomas Morgan,
Present.
Committee Chair Dr. Davis,
Present.
all present.
Thank you. We will now hear bill number 1926.
Bill number 19-26 is actually being tabled
Okay,
until the May 18th Plan Commission and the May 25th Council.
all right. Do we need a vote on that?
You need to vote on tabling it, yes.
Okay.
As requested by the.
Do we have, pardon me? Do we have a motion to table it until what day?
Like to make a chair
like
a
that.
motion to table Bill 1926 as requested by the petitioner.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, we move forward. We move to Bill 2126.
Yeah, good evening. Brian Killen,
Yes.
zoning administrator on the 5th floor of the City Hall. So this is a unique one. We've been going through ongoing maintenance of Chapter 21 zoning ordinance. So we took a look at other chapters that make reference to the zoning code. So this amendment is to update chapters 3, 4, 6, 13, 14, and 17 to bring it in alignment with current Chapter 21 language. So again, we're fixing references that are in other chapters. So you can see here the chapters 3 through 17 will be revised to bring it in alignment. We've provided language to regarding chapter 5 and 9 to legal to be updated by their respective agencies. So there's no changes in the intent of those chapters. We're strictly changing language to align with chapter 21. Some simple examples would be, there's a lot of reference changes to outdated zoning districts that are in the current, those chapters. So for example, there are references to a district or an S1 family district. We don't use those districts anymore. So those will be updated to the current chapter 21 district types. There's also a lot of references, and to minimize crossover and repeating zoning language, in some instances where zoning language was embedded in other chapters is being removed. And because it's duplicative, and instead providing a cross-reference as you see in that second example. So that's pretty much the breadth of the changes. It's bringing those chapters in alignment with current zoning district language.
What gave you the impetus and the notice that this was in having problems?
We were just doing our due diligence and looking at other districts. Sometimes we work with licensing and we noticed that licensing's actually brought it to us as well. So we noticed there are other chapters to update. So we just did a big sweep and to look at where we needed to make updates.
Cool. Any other comments, questions from our committee? Don't see none this time. We would now open it up for the public hearing. And those who like to speak in favor, please come forth or share your thoughts online.
I do not see any members of the public in person or online wishing to speak in favor at this time.
Those who would like to speak in opposition, please share your thoughts.
I do not see any members of the public in person or online wishing to speak in opposition.
Thank you. We will now close the public hearing. Then we will bring it back to the committee for any final thoughts or recommendations.
I move that we send Bill 21-26 to the Committee of the Whole with a favorable recommendation.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Clerk Corrado, could you please take the roll?
Committee Member White,
Aye.
Committee Member Warner,
Aye.
Citizen Member Stacy Odom,
Aye.
Committee Vice Chair Thomas Morgan,
Aye.
Committee Chair Dr. Davis.
Aye.
5 ayes.
Thank you. Yes, now we move to bill number 2226.
Yes, thank you. Good evening, committee members. Mark Delastrito, zoning specialist with the City of South Bend, offices on the 5th floor. Tonight we have for you our 8th amendment to the zoning ordinance since it was adopted in 2020. I think we talked about this at previous meetings, but our goal now moving forward is to kind of have 2 ordinance updates each year, one kind of in the spring and one in the fall. So this will be the last ordinance for a number of months. But yeah, this is kind of a mixture of changes that we've found, a lot of them very minor, a few slightly larger, but just further things that we wanted to implement, to hopefully continue positive development around the city and just kind of continue to clean up the ordinance where possible. Before beginning, wanted to note that staff is recommending a slight, in providing your recommendation to the full council, conditioning that recommendation on a few amendments. So the first is in the ordinance, there are a number of sections that pertain to getting rid of a special exception for restaurants in the UF zoning district and allowing them by right with a few conditions. We're recommending removing all of those changes. It's just something after a little more consideration, we want to give a bit more thought to. So that's one. And then the other is for the change surrounding accessory parking lots. We're proposing reducing the distance that's listed from 250 feet to 150 feet. That's something, again, just after a bit more consideration, thought that reducing that number could be helpful. So this slide is again at the end for when the vote happens, but just wanted to note that up front. So I talked about it a bit before, but just wanted to bring up again, yeah, kind of the main reasons for these zoning changes are very similar to in our last package of changes from a few months ago. The major thing, just wanting to help, continue making development easier and continue the positive development that the city has seen. Also, where possible, we're for things where it seems like, the Board of Zoning Appeals and staff are comfortable with certain things that have been granted a number of variances by that board, looking at changing the rules to remove the need for those variances, and also just kind of modernizing the code with current development trends, the world as it exists in 2026, and kind of cleaning up things here and there, typos and other small changes that we find are needed. With that, I will pass it over to Mike to talk about some of the larger changes in this package.
Thank you, Mark. Michael DeVita, Assistant Director of Planning Offices on the 5th floor of this building. So wanted to highlight a few of the potentially bigger moves, or at least more complicated pieces in the zoning ordinance amendments. One would be to allow accessory dwelling units, or ADUs, to be taller than the primary structure and not have a frontage type when not facing a street or open space. So this is to help promote the development of more housing in our community. So currently, right now, just to run through some scenarios. So if you had a 2-story house with a 2-story accessory dwelling unit behind it. So this would generally be what we call a carriage house, which is essentially an apartment above a garage. The accessory dwelling can't be taller than the primary structure. So here, the primary structures, the main house, are all 2 stories. So you can have the 2-story ADUs in the back. That's code compliant. Just go get your permit. Another scenario here, let's say instead the one house is just 1 story, but it's connected back formally to that accessory dwelling unit. That's 2 stories. As long as that's not in the rear setback, then that's also code compliant. So that works. But our final scenario is, let's say it's just a kind of conventional 1-story house there, and you wanted to do an accessory dwelling unit. Here, the accessory dwelling unit would be taller than the primary structure, so that's not allowed by code. So we would like to switch it for kind of, the fairness. It has the same impacts as the surrounding properties. The house just happens to be 1 story instead of 2. So it would make it where you can kind of build the same thing on each of the lots. So this would not change any of the other rules around accessory dwelling units. So we still need to meet setbacks. There's still a cap on the size. So it has to be the lesser of 800 square feet or 75% of the footprint of the main building. Given that they, again, tend to be above garages, if it's above a 2-story garage, we'd actually expect them to be more in the neighborhood of 600 square feet. So they're relatively, minor pieces. This isn't going to be like a massive building behind your house. So as an illustration of it, so don't have it these in South Bend, or the rules haven't permitted it, but an example from the East Coast. See the building on the left is 2 stories. The one on the right is 1 story. Each has a 2-story ADU at the rear. So from kind of street level, you can, if you're looking the perfect spot down the driveways, you can see the two-story, but it doesn't really like loom above that building. And if you're in front of that one-story house, you don't see that two-story ADU at all. Then we also had the rule on the frontage type. So frontage type is just like providing a porch or a stoop or something out front. In this example, it's recently constructed by the Near Northwest neighborhood. It faces a street, so it should have a porch, but you can imagine if it's the next property behind this kind of mid-block down the alley, it doesn't necessarily make sense to have a porch facing an alley. So we'd remove that requirement to help, again, facilitate the construction of accessory dwelling units in the city. Next change proposed is to, in the U2 district only, to allow apartment houses that are under 30 feet in width to be 3 stories. Currently, the ordinance allows for them to be 2.5. So this would allow that 3rd story, but it would not change the maximum height measured in feet. So the buildings would still be limited to no more than 35 feet in height. As you can kind of see in the diagram on the right side, essentially it lets you go from that 2.5 story, that yellow area, to build out also into the area shown in green. The idea you can then fully take advantage of that top floor. So an apartment house is a building with 3 or 4 residential units. So if you have 3 units stacked on top of one another, then the unit on the top floor, then you can have kind of full height ceilings to make it a little bit more livable. So I'm asked, well, what does this look like in real life? So example might be kind of like Chicago style 3 flats. So you may recognize these on Notre Dame Avenue here in the city. And also think the distinction is really limiting that building width. I think the concern you might get is like, well like a 3-story building seem really large, but these won't be very massive because they'll be fairly narrow. So look at that same location here on Notre Dame Avenue. So the house on the left is a detached house that can be done as of right. On the right would be an example of what we're proposing with this rule change. As you can see, pretty compatible, very similar in scale. The detached house is probably actually a little bit bigger in terms of massing than the apartment house building. Next up, we've seen a lot of variances requested for building width changes. So we have some building width rules in the ordinance just to get kind of away from having massive kind of monotonous buildings that are, say a block or more long. But there's some circumstances here we think we can make some allowances with zoning administrator approval to help on the building costs, but still meet the spirit of what we're trying to achieve from a urban design perspective. So one on the stacked flat shop and mid-rise tower building. So these are larger, tend to be apartment building type development that we would, if you had a hallway connection that was set back at least 20 feet from the street and open at the ground floor, then that would not count towards the like continuity of the building width. So each section would be separate. So as an example, if you parked in the parking garage today, you may have walked on the skywalk kind of hallway from the parking garage into City Hall, and probably know if you keep going down the hallway, then there's a hallway connection to the KeyBank Tower. So under a strict interpretation of the zoning ordinance right now, since those are connected by hallways, that the parking garage, City Hall, and KeyBank would be considered one building, a block long building, where I think in a normal person's perspective, those are 3 separate structures. So this just gets out from having to do variances for that kind of thing. I know University of Notre Dame is looking with their Colfax Corner project with the Tribune, probably having a similar walkway connection that would require this variance, even though it's very much designed as 2 distinct buildings. So with this rule, then you would just count each of those building pieces would be subject to the building width maximum independently. Then we have a rule that would apply to U3 and UF zone. So again, that's a zone for larger multifamily buildings. So for the rule be if the building is at least 4 stories tall, you can have that hallway connection. Again, setback 20 feet. Again, only a hallway, so no other building pieces. So this is a district where you would expect in a built form perspective, like you'd have larger buildings with small separations, but separations in between. We're doing this as we see a lot from developers will want to combine them to save on some costs. So that could be like elevators that can have centrally located elevator or bank of elevators that can serve kind of both wings of the building rather than having 2 different buildings that each require an elevator or bank of elevators, since elevators are a costly cost that raises the cost of housing. You can share other amenities too of mail rooms or fire control panels or things like that in that center section. I will note this is mostly just on what the building looks from the outside. So when it comes to elevators, like you still need to meet building code rules around that. You still need to meet ADA accessibility around that when considering how many elevators would be in the building. So again, this is an example from the Prezi. So it would check the box on this rule. So kind of each wing we could count independently as if it were 2 buildings and apply the building width rule that way. Then finally, in neighborhood center and downtown districts, which are zones you would expect like the building to be right up to the street and the buildings maybe to be touching each other, we would allow a building to be considered as multiple buildings if each part is 120 feet or less, has a frontage in a downtown or NC context, generally a storefront, and then be architecturally distinct. So an example like this, here's a historic picture off of Washington Street here downtown. Buildings are now gone, but just east of the JMS building. So they were built as separate buildings, but I suppose if you didn't really know, you could ask, like, well, how do you know from the outside of the building that those isn't really just one building that has some architectural distinction? Because all of them are 3 stories tall, all about the same heights. So the rule just allows, if you're designing this way, where from an appearance perspective, they look like separate buildings. They all have entries in each segment. They're architecturally distinct in materials and window patterns and orientation, like the cornice or trim at the top is different. So the buildings look very different. Then we would, for purposes of applying the building width rule, divide it at each of those breaks. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Mark to just run.
Thank you. At our area plan meeting, I know one of the staff members talked about elevators, and we had a discussion after the meeting. You also wrote me. Could you just share what you wrote in the letter? You could. You have a copy of your letter here?
Okay. I don't, but I think I can. I think I can remember that.
Yeah. Just share what you wrote.
Yep. There's some question about how many elevators need to be provided, or how do you decide that? Generally, it's, again, outside the zoning code, but based on building code and industry standards, generally you put 1 elevator about every 90 residential units or so. Though, again, the number will depend on how tall the building is, the use. Like an office building might have more elevators because you tend to get usage clustered more at like distinct times or peaks. Then some, it just comes down to, like, for your particular building, what do you regard as a reasonable wait time to wait on an elevator before you go up or down? Then in terms of distance from the units, general standards, no farther than about 150 feet from your unit to the elevator.
So even when we were discussing a building like this building with the Key Bank building, at the time we were sharing that they would still have to go by building codes, because there was some, the way it was presented is like they would only have to have a elevator in this building, but that would have to be determined by building codes and not by the zoning codes, because just because our buildings are connected does not mean that we would be the only one that has the elevator. It would have to be up to the building codes to determine where the elevators would be and the size and all those kind of things.
Yep,
Is that
yep,
correct?
correct. Between building code and ADA rules around accessibility would kind of, and distances and size of the floor plates, et cetera, would determine. So you'd probably expect, elevators in the Key Bank building as well.
I understand now. I appreciate, that's why it wasn't clarified right in the meeting. So I did object to that, but with that clarification being presented within the meeting, like I shared with you before, as long as it's presented within the meeting to address that issue, then I'm in support of that.
Okay.
So I appreciate you following up with a letter. I think we appreciate the time we took after the meeting. And I thank you, everybody who sent that, Tim and everybody else. I appreciate all that. So, cool. Any questions from the committee? Did I see your
Okay, well,
hand?
okay.
I can't
Yeah,
see
come
from way down here. That's Ms. White?
Yes, thank
Go
you,
for it.
Chair. I'm just need some clarification. I'm looking at section 8 that deals with a restaurant. And then I noticed the special exceptions have been marked out, but also allow subject to conditions. What would be those conditions? And when you talk about restaurants, what are you looking at?
Yeah, this is actually one section that Mark covered on the top that we're
Okay.
proposing to delete from the ordinance. So
Oh, Let me come out, but
yeah.
subject to conditions,
um,
if you want to
what-
move forward.
we're proposing to keep the rule as is.
Okay,
So
keep it as is.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, at this time,
Sorry,
yes,
is
go
it-
ahead. I'm okay.
w-
Go ahead.
Were you finished with your presentation? You are not.
Just a short piece, Mark, to finish some of the more straightforward pieces, just to review those quickly.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so just wanted to go over these quickly, like Mike said. The Board of Zoning Appeals recently granted a variance for a two-story gallery frontage, basically a multi-level porch. And we realized that we didn't have a problem with that, and so we're just allowing for those to be multiple stories by right. We realized that the current rule that we have around accessory parking lots, so basically a parking lot that's associated with a business or something like that, we thought it was maybe a bit restrictive, so we've reworked the rule a little bit to make it easier for businesses and other uses like that to have parking lots still close by, but just made the rule a little simpler. We also are writing rules so that drive-throughs have to serve cyclists, people on foot, and using other non-motorized forms of transportation to be able to utilize a drive-through at all times of operation. They don't necessarily have to serve them within the drive-through itself, but there could maybe be a walk-up window or something like that, just to make sure that people using all modes of transportation can access those uses. In our last zoning ordinance update, there was a rule allowing for a one-story amenity space on the top of buildings. We only intended it to apply to those building types, but we didn't explicitly list that last time, so we're just making that clarification here. And again, those are kind of your larger buildings in more dense urban areas. There are some school and healthcare uses that are allowed in more residential districts, like residential care facilities for the elderly and disabled. At the moment, they're not allowed to have like small vans and buses on their property, but those can often be helpful for their operations. And so we're changing the rule to allow them to do that. And then finally, we've attended to there's been some outdoor lighting violations that we've had to deal with recently. And so we're just adding one additional requirement for outdoor lighting in residential areas to just help with enforcement in those cases, and also requiring a bit more screening for mechanical equipment. When we changed the ordinance last time, it made a bunch of references to the landscaping part of the code in other areas outdated, so we're just updating those. We changed a few diagrams, a picture, and there was also just various other typos that we found as well that we wanted to fix. And so with that, of course, happy to talk about any of these items more, but staff recommends a favorable recommendation, but again, with these amendments to the ordinance as it's currently read.
Okay, we will now, thank you and have our public hearing. Those who would like to speak in favor of this, bill, please, share your thoughts. Yes, so you have a question? Okay, stop the public hearing and go back to questions. Go ahead.
Sorry, I know we took questions before, but I wanted them to finish their presentation. I just a quick question on the vans and that healthcare thing. So that's to be allowing to be parked in non-special districts, but specifically for just school and healthcare use, right? Is there a restriction on the size of the vehicle?
I don't believe, yeah, so it is just specifically for those uses. Like I said, it's like group residence, residential care facility, things like that. So it's just limited to those and our special districts or commercial, industrial, open space, so parks and our university district. So the non-special is all the ones besides that. But again, yeah, this just applies to those uses. I don't believe there's a limit on the size of those vehicles from there, but it is just limited to those uses.
So to allow them to be able to park on this public street?
On the
On-
property
On their
itself. Yeah,
property?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, so if they need, a van or a bus to get their, the people living at those facilities, places currently, they can't do that. So we're just allowing them to do so.
Okay, thank you. And then I just want to say that I did have a conversation with you all about ADUs, and you helped me understand that what we're doing here is, and we're still allowing maximum height of 26 feet, so not changing that. And the way you described it to me is really an issue of fairness, that our one-story primary structures currently don't have the ability to be able to create or build an ADU or carriage house, really is what we were talking about. And so, the conditions are still in place. You mentioned 800 square feet, 75% of the primary structure, the spacing from the rear, 5 feet from the rear with it, if there is an alley, 20 feet, there isn't an alley. And so the hope is that this encourages that kind of development. So, and in full support of that, I was somewhat concerned about the aesthetics of it, just, like people building, 2-story boxes behind them. But I think talking about it as a carriage house, really, a lot of these properties have detached garages, and to make that, put a second floor on that and have that be more usable, I think helps me to understand the change better. So thank you for that. And then so will you be sending us a revised ordinance then?
Yes.
Okay. Those are all my questions.
Any other questions? Hi, welcome aboard. Any other questions? Was that your hand up? or-
No.
No, I just saw hands down there. Are we all clear? Okay, now we go to our public hearing. And those who'd like to speak in favor, please come forth or speak online.
I do not see any members of the public wishing to speak in favor.
Those who'd like to speak in opposition, please do likewise.
I do not see any members of the public in person or online wishing to speak in opposition.
Thank you. We'll close the public hearing and we'll come back to the committee for any comments or recommendation. Yes.
I have just a few comments. I want to thank staff. I met with staff and kind of went through some of this. I initially had some concerns about a few of these, the ADUs and then the 3-story brownstones and even the restaurants. But I think once I went out and on the ADUs kind of looked at, okay, And I went out to some neighborhoods and looked at how this would apply in the neighborhoods, and you could see, oh, this makes sense. This house is only 1 story here, but there's some other 2 stories down here, and just putting a 2-story garage back there, we're not causing any harm or detriment to the neighborhood other than maybe we're blocking somebody else's view of somebody else's yard. Right. And then the brownstones, I had some concerns about that until I went and looked at the zoning map and looked at, okay, where actually would these be? And when you look at the zoning map, for the most part, where these would be allowed makes sense. There's a couple few outliers that are here and there, but you're primarily on the busier streets and kind of more dense areas, and you're not in the suburban S1, S2 areas. And then also with the restaurants, I think, and this would just be urban flex, at least that's how I read it. And if you look at where the urban flex is on the map, 90% of those areas, I think that makes sense. There's a few areas where urban flex is we've added it into the middle of a neighborhood where it doesn't make sense. But I do think, when you look at how these would apply and how they would work in reality, I think they all make sense. And thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or recommendations, President Lee?
I just want to say thank you for your presentation and explaining it, because I did have some questions that you were able to answer. So thank you very much.
Okay.
And thanks for not bringing any 30-page ordinances.
All right. Junior, any other questions or comments or recommendations?
I'll make a motion to send forward with a favorable recommendation.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Could our clerk please take the roll?
Councilmember White.
Aye.
I'm sorry, Committee Member White. Committee Member Warner.
Aye.
Citizen Member Stacy Odom.
Aye.
Committee Vice Chair Thomas Morgan.
Aye.
Committee Chair Dr. Davis.
Aye.
5 ayes.
Okay, thank you. And with that, we'll close the Zoning and Annexation Committee.
So at this time, I will call to order the Community Investment Committee. I will take roll call. Vice Chair White,
Present.
Councilmember Bolden Simpson,
Present.
Councilmember Gooden Rogers,
Present.
Citizen Member Gripe, and Citizen Member Upton. All present are accounted for. We have one bill on the agenda this evening. That is Bill 2612, a confirming resolution for real property tax abatement for Wharf Partners. As with every tax abatement, there are 2 bills that must come to the council for approval. A declaratory or designating resolution to start. We heard that bill 2 weeks ago at a prior meeting. And now this is a confirming resolution tonight. So for some of us, we've seen the presentation a few times. I think there was also a presentation at RDC that Councilmember Gooden Rogers and I would have also seen. And with that, we will move forward on bill number 2612. Welcome, Mr. Glavish, and good evening.
Thank you, Councilmember Warner. This is Eric Glavich. I'm Director of Growth and Opportunity. I have offices on the 5th floor of this building. Before I proceed in my presentation, shortly before this meeting, I noticed a very minor typo in the text of the resolution at the very last whereas clause. I did not delete the 25 out of my template. Following this meeting, I'll be I'm asking the council to consider a substitute bill during the 7
p.m.
Yes.
Makes sense. Thank you.
It's a very minor oversight on my part. Now, as Councilmember Warner had mentioned, we've gone through this presentation a few times. So I'll try to be brief. The property that we're considering is the Cascade property. We're all familiar with Cascade Phase 1, which is a crown jewel of the East Bank. Phase 2 is basically a building to complement the work that had been done at Phase 1. It's the vacant area parking lot that's right along Colfax, closer to the river. Here's a rendering of what phase two could potentially look like. You can see phase one is to the right in this image. I have here's another rendering. The building to the left would be a representation of what phase two would look like. And then here's yet another view. So, modern, sleek design that really goes well with the neighborhood and the existing building. Really quick, the project summary for this phase of the Cascade. It would be an 8-story building, about 112,000 square feet. Right now, they're looking at 22 to 32 residential units based on the bedroom sizes. And there would be over 30,000 square feet of commercial space in this property. The estimated cost for private investment would be about $50 million. In working with the petitioner, our estimate for new jobs created would be about 15 new jobs, primarily associated with building management and the commercial spaces. What we're asking council's consideration for is a 6-year mixed-use tax abatement. As Councilmember Warner had mentioned, council 2 weeks ago had adopted the designating resolution. This would confirm the council's findings. One note for this particular abatement, the residential units would receive an abatement only while they were owned by the developer Wharf Partners. When those units are sold, the abatement would terminate on those particular units. The commercial space would receive the abatement for the full 6 years. My last slide here as I wrap up my presentation is the tax abatement and tax estimates that we've run for this project. Over the 6 years of the abatement, we'd be looking at roughly $2.7 million in abated taxes. However, the revenues brought in would be about 2.4, 2.5 million. So even though this is an aggressive 6-year abatement, we're bringing in significant revenues that we would not be bringing in otherwise. And this is truly a case of this incentive is needed for this project to move forward. The developer is taking on significant risk, and the city supports this abatement and asks for council's support as well. So I will pause there. Mr. Frank Perry is here if you have questions about the project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Committee members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to the public hearing portion. Do we have any members of the public, either in person or online, wishing to speak regarding Bill 2612? Anyone in favor or against?
At this time, I do not see any members of the public in person or online wishing to speak in favor.
Okay, thank you. Bring it back to committee. Any questions from council or committee members? Comments? Would just thank you and your partners for your continued investment and belief in the city of South Bend and downtown. And at this time, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that Bill 26-12 confirming resolution sent to the favorable recommendation.
I'll second that.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second for a favorable recommendation. Clerk Toronto, can you please do a roll call vote for us?
Committee Member Gooden Rogers.
Aye.
Committee Member Bolden Simpson.
Aye.
Citizen Member Kevin Upton.
Aye.
Citizen Member Thomas Gray.
Aye.
Committee Vice Chair White.
Aye.
Committee Chair Warner.
Aye.
All ayes.
Thank you. The bill will go forward to 7 p.m. with a favorable recommendation. And with that, we will adjourn the Community Investment Committee.
We've just got a few announcements for our informal meeting. We'll have invocation by Rabbi Yosef Chaim Danziger from the Hebrew Orthodox congregation. We'll have our pledge, roll call, reports from the subcommittee meetings, minutes from the subcommittee minutes of April 13th. No special business. Reports from city offices. We'll have from DEI, the Small Business Assistance Suite, Committee of the Whole, and we'll go through those. And again, and then we'll do bills on third readings, our resolutions, bills on first reading, unfinished business, new business, privilege of the floor, and adjournment. Thank you all very much for your time and your talent, and we'll see you at 7 o'clock.